So, Pamela Windle, thank you very much for sparing time this afternoon to come on the show, Perfect Health on Elastic FM with Elaine Godley.
You're so welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
So, you're a women's health coach specialising in hormones. So, tell me what that means in English.
Yeah, so I'm a woman's health coach. She's something quite new, relatively new in the UK. But basically, I coach women back to health, so to optimal health, because our health has a massive impact on everything. So all aspects of health, whether it be hormones, which is something that I specialise in, but along with that, energy levels can come into play, so can adrenal health, gut health, mood, anxiety and depression, cardiovascular health, all those things related to female health. That's kind of area that I specialise in.
Okay, so quite a wide area of every part of our body. So how did you get into this, Pamela?
Yeah, so my background is health fitness. So I've been a personal trainer for years, like early noughties. And then I moved into sort of psychology. I got a degree in psychology and sports science, and I started working with dependent drinkers within the NHS. I kind of moved away from sort of fitness industry into healthcare. And it was 2014, my father passed away, and my eldest sister started having these hot sweats. And so my interest grew around her. She's 5 years older than me. So at the time I was thinking, well, if you're 5 years older than me, then it's going to be around the corner, in terms of perimenopause and all the negative stories I heard about the menopause, I was fearful about. So my interest started then. And I took a few qualifications on. One of them was called a third aid woman qualification, which was online, and I learned about hormones and the fluctuations of the hormones, and what to expect in the perimenopausal years, but also what you can do, most importantly, to mitigate the symptoms. And some of the symptoms that women have can be contributed to other things, other systems in the body that aren't working optimally. So that was a real surprise. And then I did another qualification with Dr. Jessica Drummond, who is one of the first functional nutrition practitioners in the world, actually. And it was on her course that she offered us all a 30-minute consultation. And at the time I'd been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, even though I'm one of these people that don't accept labels. And my background is a health and fitness professional. I've always been really conscious of what I ate and moved, and the importance of health. So for someone like me to suddenly develop chronic fatigue was a big thing. So she offered me the 30-minute consultation, and I took it because I knew that there's something that I didn't know how to help heal my body. There was something missing. I was doing all the right things. I was eating good food. I was sleeping, getting daylight, resting. And it was during the call, she was so I don't know, she just listened and heard me and understood what I was saying. And I didn't feel like I was making it up, the symptoms up that I was feeling, And so I then became her client, as well as being part of her online training program. And we did some diagnostic tests, which I currently now do in my own practice. And we got to the root cause. And that was 2016. And now, I've recovered. I'm not fully recovered, but I am so much better than I was. I would say back in 2014, when it originally started, the fatigue, or it actually started in 2012, but it took a while for it to really kind of take hold. I would say that by 2016, my energy levels, a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, you know, really active and living the life that you want to live and nothing restricting you, I would say I was probably performing on about 4. I was at home a lot, indoors a lot, on the sofa a lot, you know, not socializing, not seeing friends. I'd lost my job because of it. So it really transformed my life in a, you know, profound way, really. And now I would say I'm probably a 6 or a 7, maybe sometimes even an 8. So things have really, really, really changed in 2 years. And 2 years might sound like a long time, and it is, but it takes a long time to be unwell, doesn't it? As well, you
It
know.
does, yeah. It's amazing how many people expect to press a button, take a tablet, and be well overnight. Well, you know, a lot of people don't start to become ill till their 40s, 50s, 60s, and then, you know, I just say to them, well, you know, it's taken you 50 years to get into this state. It's not gonna happen overnight that you're going to become well. But if we can get you feeling, you know, a bit better and more upbeat and so on, you know, that's every journey starts with the first step, doesn't it? So you said that you had lots of different tests. So what were the tests that you had?
So when I go back to, in terms of diagnosing that I'd got chronic fatigue, I mean, there is no diagnosis. You just have to have the symptoms for 6 months continuously. And the support I had from my GP was a clinic over in Nottingham, but I didn't actually go along to the clinic because I just found it wouldn't be helpful for me, because I'm trained as a hypnotherapist, and it was, you know, we're talking about CBT, and I've already got my own skills I practice every day, and it wasn't that there was anything wrong with me psychologically, it was a physical thing. And then actually one GP offered me antidepressants, and I remember saying to her, yeah, I remember saying to her, look, but I'm not depressed. And she said, yes, but it will make you feel so much better. And I said, well, I'm not depressed. And she looked at me to say, well, I'm not going to help you. That's the impression that I got from her anyway. So in terms of what I got from my GP, it was a referral to a clinic that I didn't actually go to. So the tests that I did with Jessica, we looked at my hormones, so the Dutch test, which is a dry urine test, and it's a 24-hour test. And what we were looking for to see whether it was a hormonal problem, whether it was my adrenal glands. So the Dutch test looks at your sex hormones, you know, to test testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, how your body's metabolizing those, or are you at any risk of developing any estrogen dominant cancers. We can literally see any risk factors there as well. And then your adrenal health, it looks at how you metabolize cortisol and what's available to you. So for somebody that has chronic fatigue, traditional chronic fatigue, you might see on the test that they don't have enough cortisol, so they struggle to get out of bed in the morning, you know, they just literally struggling throughout the day. Well, my patterns didn't look like that. It looked pretty normal. In fact, it was pretty high midday. There was a real spike in my cortisol levels in the middle of the day, which didn't fall in line with a typical chronic fatigue person. So it was clearly, and my adrenal glands were actually quite robust. So it wasn't that. So we did the organic acid test, which is another test that I run, that looks at neurotransmitters, looks at immune health, bit of gut health, looks a bit about immunity health as well. And it came back that I was sort of lacking in sort of B vitamins, glutathione, which is the mother of all antioxidants. I was lacking in that, I was deficient in that. I'd also got excess amounts of oxalate as well. So even though I was eating quite a lot of plant-based foods, but actually for me, they were causing toxicity within my body, because now I know, at the time I didn't, but I didn't have enough hydrochloric acid. So we need hydrochloric acid in our gut to be able to break down plant foods well for us to take on the nutrients, well, not just plant foods, but also any type of protein. And I think perhaps because I've been laid down for such a long time, you know, at this point I've been laying down for 2 years. Yeah, you know, you need energy to make stomach acid, and because I wasn't using my muscles, I'd lost a lot of muscle tone as well in that time. You know, basically my body was slowing down, and so the plant-based foods were causing toxicity in my body. So that was really interesting, which then linked to my cortisol spiking in the middle of the day, and it was because of the lovely plant-based foods that I was eating, but I just wasn't able to break it down properly. So that was interesting. So we set about using targeted supplements based on that test. And then we also did a GI map test. So we had a look at that as well and see whether there was any sort of pathogens or any foreign bodies in my system, or potentially was causing harm as well. And it also looks at your immune system, seeing if there was any immune responses going on as well. And that came back pretty okay, really. There wasn't any sort of red flashing lights. So I worked with Jessica for probably about 3 or 4 months, and we added some targeted supplements in, and there wasn't a real difference, really. Brain fog had gone because I was struggling with brain fog and I couldn't recall words. I was feeling slightly better because we then reduced the toxicity. So I went on a low oxalate diet, which was quite challenging in itself. You know, all the things that we think are good for us, like spinach and green tea and nuts and seeds, I had to literally overnight stop eating those and eat foods that their oxalate levels were slightly lower, and then add hydrochloric acid in supplement form and digestive enzymes, and oh goodness me, I mean, I think at one point I was on about 10 different types of supplements. So that there was some change, but not significant to see the amount of work that I was putting in. And so I think about 6 months later, we decided to run another test, which was a blood test, and we were looking for any infections or yes, anything basically blood related. And we looked at Epstein-Barr virus. And so it was confirmed that my antibodies were high. So it looked as if the reason for the fatigue was the Epstein-Barr virus, actually, which was quite significant because in 2012 it was after having a flu virus that I became unwell, but it just lasted. It took a long while up until 2013, 14 that, you know, I was literally laid up for a long period of time. So that was really interesting. So then we set about targeting, working with reducing the antibodies, so my body didn't no longer think that I actually had flu and that I needed to recuperate. And we did like a fasting diet. And I remember Jessica saying to me, oh, you know, after I think it was like day 13, after the fasting diet, a protocol that we did, you know, you will feel significantly different. And I remember the day before, it was summer and I was sat in the garden and I was petrified. I was absolutely petrified, thinking, oh my God, what if tomorrow I wake up and I feel better? And I was scared because I didn't know who I was. I'd forgotten who Pamela was pre-illness. And I just thought, how scary is that? Who am I now after being ill for so long? But yeah, it's quite an interesting thing to think that you would be scared when that's all you want to do is be better. But actually I was. And I was better.
So the Epstein-Barr virus, has that actually gone now? Have you been tested and that's gone?
I haven't retested. And I will retest. The only reason I haven't retested because these tests are very expensive. I had 4. In one on its own, is a couple of £100, but I had 4 different types of tests. Plus, I paid for the supplements and I paid for Jessica's expertise. I would do it all over again, but it is something that I will retest, but just not yet. So I don't know whether it's gone or not. But in terms of my energy levels, there is a vast difference, definitely. I also did CBD oil as well, along with all that as well. So there's definitely a change.
Excellent. That's really good. You mentioned the Dutch test, which is for the hormones and estrogen and so on. So is that a blood test or is that the one you said was a dry urine test?
Yeah, so yeah, the Dutch test is dry urine test. It's a 24-hour test, and it's suitable for every woman, whether you are post-menopause and you don't have a menstrual cycle anymore, for the woman who's perimenopause and her cycle's all over the place, and even for younger women, my daughter's had the test, younger clients that come to see me have the test. When things aren't right and when your GP do your tests results, if you're younger than 45, because they won't do them for a woman that's over 45.
So will a GP do a Dutch test?
No. GPs don't know it. They don't do it. In my opinion, it should be available for every woman because the results are so comprehensive. It's about finding the root cause and getting the treatment that you need, a prescribed treatment for you individually. I mean, it's personal.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you do? We on a piece of paper or something, on a bit of litmus paper? How does it physically work?
So you have up to 5 test papers, and you wee on it throughout the day. So you can take up to 5 samples. So, but ideally you want 4. You take one at tea time, so on about 5 before a meal, your evening meal, and then you take one just before bed. And then if you wake up in the middle of the night, then you take one. So hopefully everyone's sleeping through the night. One in the morning upon waking, and then one the 2 hours later. Okay. Once they're all dry for 24 hours, so the very last one has to be dry for 24 hours, you package them all up, you get everything you need from the labs. The lab I use called Regenerous in London. And then you post it, recorded delivery, back 24 hours later, before midday, before 1 o'clock, back to the labs in London, and then it gets shipped to America. And then the results take about 3 weeks to come back to me to interpret. And then when we get the results, that is where we then say, right, okay, we need to support your adrenals, or we need to support your neurotransmitters, or we need to support your liver health or your gut health. So it's really, really informative. It's such a good test.
Sounds fantastic. And the organic acid test, how does that actually take place? Is that another wee thing, or blood prick?
Yeah, it's another urine test. It's just one sample though that you do in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the GI map, the stool test, presumably it's what it says. You pop it in a little container, and then that goes off to a lab as well.
Yeah, the labs are in London.
Right.
So the orgacidonic acid test, that the labs are in the States, same as the Dutch test, and the GI map is in the UK. So that comes back a little bit quicker.
Okay. Is it the same laboratory that does all these tests, or do you go to different places? Is it because it seems a bit of a minefield? This, you can have a bit of something here and a bit of something there.
Yeah, so I use the same labs basically. Yeah, and
Okay.
they do all the other things on the other side.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. So, so you were a fitness instructor originally, and then you trained in nutrition and all these other fancy things. So what does the future hold? You've mentioned that you're about 7 or 8 out of 10 at the moment, so you've got a little way to go. What's next in line for Pamela?
But for me personally, well, it's, our health is, it's a continuum, isn't it? Our health is. And so for me, I'm I'm just approaching the perimenopausal years. So the perimenopause for me is, I think, comes in two phases. It's from 35 to, say, well, I'm 52 now. But so when there's some change going on in a woman's body, but nothing significant. So you're having a period every month, but maybe cycles change from a 28-day to a 26-day. Maybe you just get a bit more fatigue at the day you start your period. Nothing major, nothing that's concerning. But then you get to the next phase of perimenopause when your menstrual cycle, instead of being a 28 days, it's gone to a 40-day instead. And your periods may get a bit lighter or a bit heavier. So I've just started the second stage of perimenopause. And so for me, I find it quite empowering, actually, knowing exactly where I am, knowing what's going on in my hormones. I know when, if I'm ovulating or not. March was the first time I missed a period, on my 52nd birthday, funny enough. I was like, just how does the body know this? But yeah, really interesting. So for me, I'm really empowered in knowing that. And I think because I've worked on my body systems, I've worked on my gut health, I've worked on neurotransmitters, I've worked on my liver health, for me, it's I think the work that I've done to get better from chronic fatigue has put me in a good position in terms of transitioning to the perimenopause years, because those years can be chaotic. But when you've got other systems in the body that aren't functioning optimal, that's when we see disaster. That's when we see women really, really struggling with insomnia, heavy bleeding, mood swings, hair loss, the real significant symptoms that a lot of women struggle with. So for me, it's continuing looking after my health. I really want to get even further and get better and have more energy and fully recover, and perhaps exercise. I don't exercise in the way that I used to, and so muscle loss is something that really concerns me moving forward. And it's something that I'd like to regain. I do go out for walks now, and I can walk uphill, and I can walk at a much faster pace than I used to. So it is getting better at that, improving my gut health. My gut health isn't perfect at all, but it's far better than it was. And it's like I said, it's a continuum. We have to look after ourselves.
Absolutely, and it's up to us to take responsibility, isn't it? Not subcontract it to a doctor or reading a book and think we know everything. And also following our intuition, I think, is really important with our health, because our body knows, our body tells us what's what, and if we don't know our body, then that's where things go wrong, because we take things that's other people's reality rather than our own reality. So just before we finish, I want to ask you about HRT. What's your view on HRT for people going through, or women, not people, women going through the menopause? So I'm hearing less and less about HRT, but there are still women that I know here in Nottingham that have been put on HRT recently. What's your view on that?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I think, particularly when I've ran the Dutch test and I see the results of women on the Dutch test, I see it on paper. So they come to see me personally and they're just not sleeping, you know, and they just feel completely drained. They've got nothing left. And they want to feel better yesterday, not tomorrow,
Yeah.
not 2 years down the line. They want to feel better now. And HRT might be the answer, or bioidentical hormones might be the answer for that woman. However, given what I can see on the Dutch test, I really, really, really believe it's irresponsible of any GP, any doctor, to prescribe HRT or bioidentical hormones, if it's estrogen, to any woman without knowing how her body is metabolizing estrogen. Because we don't know what is going on internally. You've got genetics, that's one thing. But we don't know how her body is using estrogen. Is that estrogen recirculating in her bloodstream and potentially causing cancer, some type of estrogen cancer? So I think some women might need to go on HRT if they're so depleted. However, the number one reason why women do go on HRT is because of hot sweats. Now, if that's the reason why you're going on HRT, getting rid of hot sweats is so easy. It's a little life changes, you know, simple things that you can do to reduce that. You do not have to go on HRT for reducing hot sweats. Now she's feeling, you know, completely drained, and she's, you know, perhaps struggling with dryness, you know, that kind of thing. Then yeah, there's nothing that you can do to reclaim those hormones. So I think some women might need it, but I think it should be carried out much carefully than it is done.
Okay. I thought you might say that. You mentioned hot sweats, and it's easy. You can't make that statement and not give us at least one tip on what women can do to avoid the hot sweats.
Yeah. So there's two things. So our brain, hypothalamus in the brain, regulates our body temperature. Okay. But it's also connected to our ovaries and our adrenal glands and our stress response. So during the perimenopausal years, when, you know, she's ovulating 1 month, she's not next month, that is physical stress to the person, the woman. If she's postmenopause and she's still having those hot sweats, then we have to go back and look at the root cause. What is it? So what's causing the stressor? Our liver detoxifies estrogen. So hot sweats generally is basically too much estrogen in the body. Okay. And so our liver metabolizes and gets rid of estrogen. So, okay, what is she eating? How much alcohol is she drinking? And this is why HRT, if she's drinking alcohol, then I don't think she should be prescribed HRT at all, because it slows down your body's way of getting rid of estrogen. So, you know, is she having leafy green vegetables? Foods that help the liver to detoxify? What's her bowel movement like? Does she struggle with constipation? Is her thyroid health optimal? Because that will slow down that transition. You know, is she backing up? So if she's not getting rid of waste every day, well, what happens is estrogen goes back into the bloodstream and causes havoc. Okay, so one, you need to look after your liver health, you know, reduce those toxins, chemicals that we put on our body every day, makeup, cosmetics, you know, even down to detergents, cleaning products that we use all the time. And then, you know, what foods are you eating? Are you having foods that really help clear estrogen from the liver? Broccoli, sprouts, broccoli, what else is there? All the green leafy vegetables actually really help as well. And then we have to look at your digestive system. Are you struggling with constipation or diarrhea? You know, because that means you're not metabolizing anything if you've got diarrhea. And what's the fiber like? Because we need fiber in the large intestines to get estrogen out, to get rid of waste. And what's your beneficial bacteria health like as well? So all those things will help the body do that well. And then we can't forget the brain, the conversations we have with ourselves, your relationships you keep with yourself, with other people, you know, daily stress management tools, all of that will really help, you know, meditating, getting out in nature. And I think a lot of women are disconnected that actually that thing you say to yourself or that conversation you have with that person, that has an impact on your hormones. That will cause hot sweats. So it's everything. There isn't just one thing, and there isn't just one system that we need to work on. There's at least three I've just mentioned there: liver, gut, and your brain as well.
So thank you. That's a very quick sort of educational whiz around the body for women. So as you say, everything is joined up, isn't it? That you can't really treat bits of us in isolation without having the whole picture. So hence your integrative women's health coaching. So thank you very much for that, Pamela. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you. We ask guests to choose 2 songs, and you've chosen Based in the Place, London, which is a dance track. So tell me why you've picked that.
Yeah, it is a dance track. And so basically it goes back to my health and fitness days. So when I worked at David Lloyd, I used to teach a class on Saturday morning. It was a step class, and it was probably the busiest class at that time on the Saturday morning. And I'd have 35 women, well, some men, but majority were females in my class. And I used to create a routine at the end of the class. Once everybody had learned the routine, I used to put that song on, and everybody'd go mad. There was like an uproar in the class of everybody just going mad. They knew the routine, they just got lost in it, and they were just so excited and just enjoying the movement. And the class would always overrun because they'd be going, let's just do it one more time, let's just do it one more time.
Brilliant.
So I hear that song now, it just takes me back to that moment when I used to teach classes, and it just brings joy to me. I just love it.
Fantastic. Well, let's hope soon you'll be dancing to Based in the Place, London, very soon. The other song you chose is Rise Up by Andrea Day. So why is that one on your list?
Yeah, that one's on my list, and that is more about me and what I've gone through in the past sort of 4 years, really, and that hope of rising up and getting back to the person that I was, or the new person that I am today. So more of an inspiration, you know, that well, we can't do it on our own. When we're looking at health, we all need somebody to help us along the way. And so for me, it was Jessica Drummond, and she listened to me and heard me, held me in a safe space, and I just felt cared for and nurtured. So yeah, that song's about that for me.
Marvellous. Okay, well, Pamela Windle from smarterchange.co.uk, thank you very much for spending time with us and teaching a little of how we can help ourselves with our change of life.
Thank you too. Thank you.